What do you do when overnight a global pandemic plunges the organization you lead into uncertainty? Welcome to the Pivot. Hi, everybody. Jen DeVore here, Civic Impact Manager at the Economy League of Greater Philadelphia, today with another episode of The Pivot, our web series highlighting regional leaders on how they're pivoting in response to COVID-19. I'm very excited about today's guest. We're going to hear from Siria Rivera of Providence Community Center, which provides multi-generational services to the Fair Health section of North Philadelphia, with programming ranging from workforce development to youth programs and more. So Siria, if you want to join us.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, it is so good to see you.
Likewise.
You look
Thanks for
fabulous.
having me. Thank you. Same
Absolutely.
to you.
It feels
I
good
tried today.
Yeah.
For you.
Thank you. It feels good to kind of like, I do this show all the time now, and to like put on, as they say now, real clothes. and it's a good motivator.
And brush your hair. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you look great, so thank you for joining us. So I just gave a very brief intro. You run a small but very robust community center. Clearly, the work it's high touch, very much in person. You can't really do that business as usual operations right now, which I'm sure is incredibly difficult for you and your stakeholders and the clients that you serve. So what steps, let's just get into it. What steps are you taking right now to continue to engage your community, and talk a little bit about what you've been up to for these last however many weeks now?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us have had the rug pulled from under us, right? Like almost overnight. So as you pointed out, all of our direct on-site services have been completely disrupted, and we've had to actually pretty early on in the process, I decided to make the call March 11th due to an indirect concern exposure. And so a little bit ahead of the city, we closed and immediately had to get into what do we do to still service the community. And so because we closed a little bit earlier than most people, we spent the rest of that week planning, and we focused largely on just intentional communication, meaning what are the parents and the students' needs right now? Like, forget what we need in this moment as an agency, and what we need to know from them. Because I think the first inclination is, let's survey them. Let's see what technology they have. Let's use this. And as a team, we decided, let's just check in. Let's check in, let them know we're here. So that's the first thing we did. I would say another 2 weeks into the situation, we made a resource guide in Spanish and English, because a lot of our clients speak only Spanish or mostly Spanish. And we wanted to cover the basics for them, because we felt that it was too much to filter through. So if we could do anything, if we could take any weight off of the shoulders of our parents, it would be to not have them filter through the hundreds and thousands of new resources that was being thrown at them. Some of them which are gimmicks and scans.
Yeah.
Some of them that are just not good quality, or maybe not in Spanish. So we put together this resource guide, and that was our second touch point of communication, which was, here's something for you. It was also a gateway to the conversation of, what are your needs? So it can be hard to call someone and say, hey, do you need help with getting food? Do you need help with getting formula? But if they're looking at the list of resources and they see things pointed out there, then we can engage them in a conversation that is, less uncomfortable about, what else would you need us to help you connect to? And can we make a call for you? And of course, not everybody was receptive to that or responsive even at first. But the point is that's our approach, and we wanted to try that. We have now been, this is week 6.
Mm-hmm.
And we have now been moving into, how do we engage the youth?
Yes.
Our teens, they're older, and they're still very actively meeting through Zoom, and our team leaders that work in our after school program are having trainings and professional development through Zoom. So we've never lost them in the engagement, but our kindergarten through 8th graders, that's a little tougher. And we didn't focus on that at first, because we wanted to make sure the parent was good, because the parent's good, they're good. But also because we knew that there wasn't a consistent technology access across the board.
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah, like, because you have these great resources, and so many organizations are really, I would say, rising to the occasion and getting opportunities out there. But so much of it is done online with technology, and you can't talk about what's happening right now in Philadelphia without talking about the digital divide. Yeah. And we talk about that at the Economy League constantly. So yeah, I would love to just kind of hear how you're facing those challenges, and
it's tough. I put together early on, within the first week and a half, an overview of how Providence was responding to COVID-19 to share with partners and funders. And in that overview, this was weeks ago, I put some concerns about implications this would have in the community that would lead to an inability to help them. And there was two things: the lack of ability to pay for internet and the lack of ability to pay for their cell phone bill. Because if they're picking between food or rent or whatever and these bills, or if they don't have a job at the moment, they're not going to keep their phone on. If they don't have a phone, we can't call them, and then we can't text them. If they don't have internet, then and this is for the people who even have phones and laptops on to work with to begin with. That's a whole different conversation, right? So our youth, for example, we had to wait until now that we know that most of our youth have Chromebooks through the district. Now we can get into a conversation about how to do read aloud with them or help them with homework through video. We couldn't do that 3 weeks ago because most of them didn't have a tablet or a computer. And so, that's just the harsh reality that kind of when you wait for a crisis to address an issue that really should have not waited this long to be addressed. Yeah. Every child in the district, at least middle school and high school, should have had Chromebooks already. And they didn't. And so that has really limited us in how we engage the youth, which is, again, why we focus on the parent. At least we could call them, I guess. At least we could email them. Yeah. And now we're hoping to get into that second phase of really engaging our youth, because unfortunately, the sad truth is we won't see them on site for the rest of the school year. I highly doubt that we will be back in time to finish the after school program that ends in June. Yeah. Which is sad. And, we miss them. We, of course, we prefer to be on site. I think mentally and emotionally, we have to really get more into the conversation of how it takes a toll for a social services person not to be able to provide direct services. You have committed your career to service a community that you can't even see right now. You can't interact with them in person. You can't do anything really but call them and email them and send them things in the mail, I suppose. But you lose that drive that you have. You have to find other ways to really make up for it, because you're not getting it from the random hugs you get from the little ones at the center, or the thank yous, or the thank you notes, or the cupcakes they bring you in. Those are cutesy things, but the point is that that personal touch is gone. And so I really have also focused on just the mental, emotional well-being of our staff, and of our parents. And I keep saying, just ask. Let's just keep asking each other how we are. Let's talk about what we miss. Let's talk about what we hate about this. Yes. And then get into the conversation of work, because we need to address that. You need to address that, and it's very real, and we're all human, and we can't lose touch of that. I didn't want to have these, let's collect all the data we can because we have time kind of approach, and then who knows what situation they're in at home. Even my staff members, a lot of them are part-time members. We've made it a point to pay them all through all this.
That's amazing.
Which I'm very happy and we're very fortunate to be able to do. But the truth is that it's the right thing to do, right? It's the right thing to think about the emotional and mental well-being of your staff as well as your community through all this. And that's been overall our approach. And it's hard to capture that in data. Yeah. That, right? So I figured, let me get into a proactive conversation with a lot of our funders and partners about why we're doing this, so that they know before they come up with questions for us what we've been doing. And I think that makes a big difference, because funders also had the rug pulled from under them. And they're trying to figure out, well, what should we be asking for, and what do reports look like? And I'm so grateful. So many of them have been compassionate. They've waived reporting requirements or extended them, or simply have asked, just send us an update. Don't worry about the report. And that's beautiful, because quite frankly, we're not doing what we said we would do. We can't. and they know
you're
that.
pivoting, right?
Yeah, everyone's pivoting,
Yeah.
and they're, for the most part, from what I can see, they're with it. They know, they understand. Yeah.
So I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about your report to funders, because I think that's a real tangible thing that people at home that are watching can learn from. Because one, like you said, closing early, even earlier than the city, like I think that's like a very brave and bold move, because as a leader, you never want to raise concern when you don't have to, but you also have to be able to recognize the seriousness of a situation, and clearly you did, and that, you know, in hindsight was the right move. But people are just so focused, and they have to be, on staying afloat right now, and trying to, you know, whether they're trying to pivot or maintain, like whatever word you want to say. But I'm really impressed that you took the initiative to approach your funders right away. And kind of, so I'd just love to hear more about how you laid the groundwork for that, because I do think that's something people can really take away from this.
Yeah, like I said, I thought it was important to be proactive and not just wait for them to tell me what they were going to, how they were going to pivot, right? It was more of a, this is why we closed when we close. This is what our priorities are as far as communication with parents. This is what we can do remotely, which is our adult education classes and things like that. This is what these are our concerns, and this is what I think I may need funding for, because I feel that those are their main questions. Like, what are you doing instead of what you were supposed to be doing, or you said you would do? Why are you doing it? And what do you think you will need help with post-pandemic or through this? Because again, it's a new situation for everybody. So I kind of summarized all that with the intention of course, now that we're more kind of into this situation, and have seen what we can and can't do, coming back and following up with something more substantial as far as maybe percentages of people we've done referrals for, and things like that. It was too early on to give numbers, and I think a lot of people shy away from communication with funders outside of reporting, and you shouldn't. You should proactively reach out, and you should connect, and you should have a conversation. You should ask them how they are, too. I mean, they're all at home as well, and they're all trying to figure out how they can be most useful, but they're also thinking, well, if their portfolio doesn't allow them to really meet their current needs, they are having meetings that are very deep in conversation about how not to help, and that anything you can offer to help guide that as an executive director is probably invaluable for them.
I think that's great to check in. I mean, you check in when things are good, but check in when things aren't so good too. And it's a good reminder that you know what they're trying to navigate this all as well.
Right.
And you just had a big fundraiser recently too, right? That was online and clearly probably different than what you thought the fundraiser was going to be a few months ago.
So different, and we had about 4 weeks to really make it happen. So we usually have kind of a benefit reception gala, if you will, every year. Is our only fundraiser event. So besides grants and individual donations, this is it for us. So we knew we couldn't cancel, and we knew postponing it wasn't going to help either. So we decided to pivot that and go to a non-event. And it's not exactly a virtual event, because it wasn't like very interactive for the full 3 hours that would have been the event. But it was online based in the sense that we had a non-event Facebook page. We posted an abundance of videos from our youth and from our interns and from our staff, just sharing why Providence is special to them, why youth advocacy is important, why our after school program is so meaningful, and things like that, what they miss about the program. We shared a couple of success stories of our youth. It's all still posted now, and very accessible through our Providence Center Facebook page. And a lot of them are on our website now too, on our non-event tab. So we wanted to still celebrate that. We wanted to still celebrate and share who we are, our impact. And we, of course, wanted to fundraise. And we actually pretty much met our goal. We're at over $55,000. Our goal was 65, but then we didn't have the expense of the event.
Yeah.
So pretty much we met our goal, and we still have checks coming in.
That's great.
So we may hit 60, and I'm excited about that, because I keep saying we need to come back stronger than ever. after this. That's been literally my message to my team since this all went down. We're going to have to be ready to hit the ground running. So whatever we need to do to invest in ourselves, in our professional development, our training, our partnerships, so that when we come back, we hit all those targets that the community is going to need, which is going to look different than before. There's going to be new trauma. We've talked about the post-pandemic trauma. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what it is. I just know it's going to be a thing. And so we've always been trauma informed. So taking that to that next level, super important. And so this fundraiser really just helps us ensure that we are able to do that, and then we don't have to have a gap in services. So I'm so grateful to all of our donors.
That's incredible. And I think so many, I mean, you know, Philadelphia is such a social city. There's, you know, networking and fundraising events almost every night of the week, you know, in past circumstances. And a lot of people are trying to figure out how to bring their stuff online or, you know, without having that in person. So that's great that you've been able to do that so quickly and successfully early on.
It can be scary, especially for like board members or folks that are just not savvy with technology. They're like, is this work? This is not. And then technology does kind of fail you sometimes. So you take a risk. But I would say now is the time to take those type of risk, really, because you don't really have a choice. It's either take some risk in that regard or do nothing. And
that's
so
great advice.
Yeah.
That's such great advice. So what do you, I mean, I know you mentioned, you know, you're preparing for the unknown, right? You understand that as a leader and, you know, taking care of the people in your charge, you mentioned professional development and, you know, trauma informed services and taking that to the next level, but we don't really know what we're going to walk out into. So how do you prepare for the future? What are some lessons you're learning now that you might take with you, or what do you think some of these shifts might be?
This whole situation is a reminder that one, change is constant, which is one of my favorite quotes, and two, you could just never get too comfortable, right? Like you always have to be prepared to step up and there's going to be challenges. So just a reminder that never get too comfortable. But as far as lessons learned, I do feel like we're just in the middle of this. We're in the thick of it. So lessons learned probably to me will come. I'm very reflective. After the fact, when this is all settled, I can probably better say my lessons learned are, or this is what I wouldn't do next time. But more than anything, just, you know, you got to roll with the punches, and you can't get caught up in what you can't do, right? And I've never been that way, which is why I was able to really make that call so quickly. And I have such a supportive board that they didn't question it at all. They just knew that I was making the best call I knew to make. So I think having a supportive board makes or breaks those types of moments when you have to, as an ED, be able to say, we need to shut down, and this is why, without a back and forth, right? So I'm so grateful for that. I know everybody doesn't have that type of support, but you know, it was a gut reaction. And so I think that for those of us who have those gut reactions in these moments, always listen. If you have that intuition, don't question yourself, because then you'll end up a week or two going back and forth. And next thing you know, maybe things get a little bit worse than they needed to be before. I like to take precautionary actions and not reactionary reactions to things. Right? There's a difference. And unfortunately, across the board, you know, countrywide, we've kind of taken reactionary steps and not precautionary steps. And that's kind of why we are where we are as a whole. We won't go there, but as individual leaders, I think when we take precautionary steps when possible, I think it's for the better of the organization. And I think that's the best thing. Is just, I'm glad I followed my gut. I'm glad the board was on board. I'm glad they were all safe, and you know, it's not preferred, but I think everyone would agree that we're still doing the best. Besides the communication, overall, just staying informed and connecting to what's happening in our city, right? We can't just be in a bubble, and you kind of gotta get out of your personal stuff to remember that professionally, I need to be up to speed with who's doing what in the city, who I can help, what I can do to partner with them without going so outside of my niche and mission that I'm not ready to come back. So that's another struggle I think that some of us are facing, is it kind of feels like we're not doing enough, right? And we're not. We can't.
Yeah.
And so I have struggled with, well, I guess we could open up and we can do food distribution and we can do these other things. And technically we could, but it's not our niche. We're not pros at it. Other people are, and they do it better than us. So maybe we support them in some way. Maybe we refer people. Maybe we focus on that. And so that we're still staying true to our mission and our expertise, and still investing in our quality of work and coming back better than ever. Because if you get too diverted, you will not be ready to come back better. You just won't, because you'll have done 10 different things that you never did before, and you'll just be a juggling act. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have to say, that's something, you touched on something that almost every single guest on the show has said in their own words, of like, know your expertise, and this is the time for it to shine, right? And there's places in this circumstance to take risks, as you mentioned, and you certainly have. I think your risk tolerance is incredibly high, which is awesome. But at the same time, like, knowing what you do best and amplifying that will only help you be part of the community that is responding to this. So as you, like, if being a food site wasn't your expertise, but high touch communications within your constituents are, right, like, let's work together, right? That's where the collaboration comes from. So I think that's great. My last question is just how can we support you? What is your organization, need right now? And how can people at home that are interested in, taking part be a participant in it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing we all go to is, of course, any donation in kind or monetary. Sure. We're a nonprofit, we're small. We are, though we're doing very good right now, looking at the possibility of losing funding that maybe we thought was secure or guaranteed, because things have changed. Maybe those deadlines have been pushed back, or they're pivoting what their focus is. So definitely our first and foremost, my goal is to make sure we're financially stable. So I'm always going to say that. And our fundraiser is still actively going. So that's just because the event happened yesterday doesn't mean that we can continue to promote that. But also, I think one thing I really want to encourage people to do is go to our Facebook and follow us, follow our page. Like, we're on Instagram as Providence, Philly. We don't have as big of a following there, but we have recently posted a lot, particularly highlighting our work. And I think if people want to learn who we are, that's the best place to go. But if you want to help gain visibility, since everything is online based right now, my focus is definitely growing our online reach, right? Great. And so really getting people to really follow us and like our page and like our stuff and share our posts if it means something to them, if it connects with them. That's, if they don't have, $10 to donate, then like our Facebook page and share our post and like our post, because that means a lot to us. It means that more people see what we do, and maybe that will lead to a partnership or a donation.
I think that's great. And I'm going to share your information now. So Siria, thank you so much for being a guest. And I think what you said is great because, as we talked about, there's so many more people that are online now, some for the first time. So, go to providencephilly.org is their website, and then you can find them on Facebook at Providence Philly. Siria, thank you so much for being a guest. We loved having you. And we were so happy to be here. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching The Pivot. I'm Jen DeVore, your host, Civic Impact Manager at the Economy League of Greater Philadelphia. You can find us on social media as well. We are on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And to watch this episode and more, you can find us at economyleague.org/thepivot. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a great and safe weekend.